Hi, welcome to chapter 2 of this 7-chapter series concerning stand. In the first chapter we took a look at pride, but we made the focus, of course, humility. And in this chapter we are going to look at the vice or the deadly sin of greed. Now, of course, we're all familiar with greed. Even when we were babies, if we saw that milk bottle, we were willing to kill for it. We understand greed very well. Now listen to what it says here in Proverbs 1 verse 19. In the King James Version it says, "So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof." Let me paraphrase that for you. King James Version of Proverbs 1:19 says, in essence, that everyone that is greedy, that pursues wealth, makes it their principal value. I need to generate wealth. Now understand, greed doesn't just pertain to wealth. It can be multiple things. But in the context of this, we'll just look at it from the perspective of money. And what it's actually saying here is that when we pursue money, when we are so greedy that it consumes our life, the word actually tells us that it takes away our life. Now, throughout my Christian walk and throughout my life, I've seen many people fall into this idea of greed as a vice, where they have made money and achievements, wanting more, their principal aim in life. And I've seen people lose their lives physically, but as well as emotionally and spiritually. They started well in the kingdom. They really wanted to honor God, but the idea of finances or gain, it took hold of their hearts, and they became so greedy that it literally took their life. It took their life spiritually, physically, and mentally. Many men and women have lost their marriages and their families for this pursuit of wealth, this rat race to achieve more and have more. Now, we said that we are going to look at the principal virtue and make this our primary focal point. But I really want you to still remember that within the context of these chapters, do not forget that these vices do exist. These vices do destroy. These vices are a reality. And although we will focus on the virtue, we have to stay aware of the vices. It is when we are aware of it that we are able to reject it. Listen to what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying we should fight the vice. So I'm greedy and then I'm going to make it my focal point. I need to fight greed. That is not the way that we are going to go about combating greed. Rather, to fight greed, we will be, and the virtue here is generous. Whenever we want to eliminate a vice, the only way is to take the parallel opposite thereof. In the form of greed, of course, it's generosity. With pride, it was humility. We make the focal point the virtue and we pursue the virtue. But know that greed will consume your life. It's a fact. Enough is never enough when it comes to this vice of greed that takes hold of our hearts. Now, in Proverbs 19 verse 17, concerning generosity, the English Standard Version says the following: "Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed." We cannot outgive God, people. Understand this. God is saying that when you are generous to the poor, you are lending to me, and I am no one's debtor. God honors a cheerful giver. When we want to see greed eliminated in our lives, we must be more generous. That is the only way. You see, when money takes hold of your heart, when it becomes your focal point, when you are holding on to it with everything you've got, what is the only way of releasing it? It's opening up your hands and starting to channel whatever it is that has taken hold of your heart, whether it is money or something else. The only way is to be extravagantly generous in how we live. It is then that we will see greed be destroyed in our lives, and that we will become a people known for our generosity. The early church was well known for its generosity. There were often cases where churches were assisting other churches in the New Testament churches. And these churches that were giving generously, they themselves did not really have to give. But they said that God has blessed us so much that we will be generous. And then there will be enough for everybody. I want to quickly look as well at the scripture where Jesus is in the temple. And an old woman comes to the front and she throws in her last coins or coin. And Jesus also sees many other people enter into the temple and they give large gifts to the Lord or large gifts to the Lord. And Jesus makes a profound statement. He says to his disciples, do you see this old woman? She has given the most today. Now I can imagine the disciples are thinking, Jesus, I know you're the Son of God, you are awesome, you are so wise spiritually, but I think you might have missed math at school. Maybe you didn't do 1 + 1. Jesus, this woman threw in a few coins. She gave a little bit. Did you see the amount of the gifts that these other people gave? I don't understand, Jesus. Why did she give the most? Well, Jesus said those words because Jesus knew that she was giving according to the abundance of her heart. She was giving generously, and greed had not taken over her life. I want to encourage you as we look at this the second chapter concerning greed and the virtue of generosity. The challenge I want to make, and this is a challenge that would benefit you greatly, even if it's for today. Won't you find somebody and generously give something you value? It's easy to give things we don't care about. But when we start giving away things that we really value, it is then that we see the vice of greed shattered, broken, destroyed in our lives. So practice generosity, and it is then that we overcome and conquer greed.